Hey Pat, how many bars of Guess Who's Back can I rap before we get copyright stricken?
Guess who's back, back again.
So, guess who's back indeed? This guy. My all-time favorite Nerf melee weapon, part of the Enforce line, is the Marauder. And this isn't just any Marauder, friends. Oh no, this is a red Marauder. And if we've learned anything from my buddy 626...
Yeah, he took the red one.
That's right, Stitch. The red one is always better. It's the better team, it's the better rival blaster, and it is the best flavor of Nerf Marauder. Now, the Marauder is a full hand-and-a-half longsword, and let's go ahead and free it from this frustration-free packaging so that we can take a better look at it, because it's a sword. It's not meant to be displayed. It should be enjoyed and taken into glorious foam batter. I can tell you right now that this one feels weird. I think that it's the real deal. Like, I assume that it's the genuine article. I didn't think that Hasbro had any intentions of bringing back the Marauder, but here it is, 2008, Hasbro US patent pending, and then made in China, and then batch C244B. I'm gonna have to go check a genuine one to find out if this is legit, but I can tell you right now it feels legit. Like, it's got the same core, it's got the same sort of flex, and I mean, these were so great. They're not quite the same level as like the LARP weapons that are covered and need to be constantly like talc powdered to cover their latex or whatever. You don't get that level of detail out of it, but for a foam sword, it's stiff enough that it doesn't have a lot of whip to it. It's got a little bit, and it's got a pretty decent tip and pretty decent blade squishiness. I'm sure my friends over at Kalamazoo would have a field day with like assigning values to all of this, but all I know about the Enforce Marauder is that, especially when I was a wee vamplet, it was the perfect height. Like, it's just a really good size for a longsword, especially one that you could buy back in the day at Toys R Us. Rest in peace, Joffrey. But this is pretty sweet. It's one of my personal favorites. Back in my Nerf Haven sword dancing days, like, I could really throw one of these around, and because of that, I destroyed a lot of them. So the purpose of this video is kind of like a weird awareness video of like, hey guys, for some reason, this ultra rare Nerf sword that we could never find in mint condition anywhere is all of a sudden back up on Amazon.com right now for 25 bucks. Affiliate link in the description box below. But also, to find out, like, with one in its mint condition, what can they really take? Like, how much punishment and abuse can this hand-and-a-half sword really put down? And I can think of no better way to do that than with a new kind of video on the channel. We're going to stress test it. Blaster stress test will be different than this. Let's go! Alright, so the tip is clearly one of the most important pieces and the most vulnerable, just because, like, once the tip goes, you have core exposed, and then all of your stabbing motions are a little bit more dangerous. But I'm going to test it in a variety of ways. Like, I want to beat the crap out of this battle bunker and see if it's strong enough to pop that in its stock state, but I also kind of want to, like, rough it up a little bit. So right now you can see it is completely, like, still brand new, which is astounding, fresh out of the package. But I want to kind of simulate being like a smaller Nerfer and like walking around like this. This is just unfinished concrete, and seeing like what that's going to do to our tip if we were in theory dragging it around, or if we were so short that it hung at our leg as we like kind of pulled it around. And I'm not like dragging it hard, but you can see that that definitely damages this latex bit up top. And then we're going to do just a quick chain of like what would happen if it were to fall or get knocked out of one's hand while battling. So like we have everything from that . Alright, so damage from that, actually pretty minimal. Starting to get something on the pommel, but so far we're just surface scratching this guy. Like, we're gonna have to bring in some heavy hitters. So luckily I have an almost amazing condition Warlock Battle Axe, which is kind of the axe companion to the sword. If Fire Emblem rules apply, the sword should be much mightier than the axe, but it gives me something really good to like kind of simulate little brother on brother combat as though this were being used for its pseudo-intended purpose. So let's go ahead and try that out. We're just going to get like 10 really good strikes in against this thing, and we're going to sort of focus like we were standing really far back, as though we're trying to maximize the length of the Marauder, which is its primary advantage. So alright, so we're finally starting to get some wear beyond just sanding. So we've got some bruising on the finish, but overall, like, I forgot how tough these things were. We're gonna have to take it up a notch. Alright, so here we have a broomstick handle, which is the quintessential competitor to the Marauder, right? Like, the noble stick. It's the best imaginary sword that you can get for free in any backyard in a deciduous or temperate rainforest kind of setting. So, God, I hope this thing doesn't like fly back and hit me in the face. Again, like, good cracks on the tip. Nothing really bad going on here. Like, it is holding up well. Alrighty, so this is as much a stress test for our battle bunker as it is for our Marauder, but I figure since we still have this out here and we have a couple hundred of them, why not? This was able to support my entire body weight, so I have a funny feeling that, like, that's not going to do much of anything. But the question becomes, is a stabbing motion perhaps more dangerous to these? So if we were to, and see, that's actually really good. The battle bunker is totally safe. There's like a slight denting in it, but this is a good test because it's something pseudo hard, not unlike your body that you could stab into, and it shows that the sword is pretty resilient. It's pretty bendy. We're gonna try something even harder now, though. Alright, so that's stabbing into something that has no give whatsoever. Our blade is still pretty straight. We're starting to get slight dents here, but like, it proves that this is a very flexible material. We can take it. Oh, we finally got a bend in it. So almost tip to knot there. See if we can bend it back now, or if that's how we're going to create a break in the plastic. But the plastic tube inside is pretty resilient. We've created kind of an inherent weak point, but hopefully you guys could see pre that bend, like this was willing to flex, almost tip to pommel with no real issues. And I'm sure now it's going to bend there every time. So it is possible, once you've created like a stress line in the plastic tube inside this, to really take it down a notch. But I guess as long as you're not like actually trying to fold it over, it's very, very durable. The only other things that I want to test, I want to test the hand guards. I've put a lot of faith in these, sword dancing with guys like Rogue, Flying Chicken, and even the Googe, all Southeast NERF legends in their own right. But they've held up to that. I'm curious if they'll hold up to like just a brutal beating here. Let's find out. All right, so first we're just gonna take it with the Warlock axe, which is kind of floppy, and then we're gonna go up from there. So when you find these guys at thrift stores, this is a part that frequently is either torn or broken, and you see one of those blows did get, so this is like close to coming off. So that's only 10 real good swipes with the Warlock axe, but like a good hit along the stress line here in the foam is enough to take it down to speed. So I think that that is of note. Maybe we'll test the Pommel too, although I don't know what you'd be using the Pommel for here. But I am going to see how many swipes it takes with like ye old stick to knock that off. Okay, so we've got our noblest of backyard swords. Doubles as a fire stick, and alright, so I wasn't actually keeping count, but this gives you a good look at like kind of the overall durability. Those are good solid swings too, but you can also see inside here what holds this together, and it looks like there is a tiny, very frail plastic core in here that's holding this guy together. So there's a light piece of ABS in here, and the issue is, I guess, that it just doesn't go very far, and it feels like if I were to peel this open, there's not a whole lot giving this supporting structure, but how much better is that than nothing is actually really, really cool. Apologies it's taking so long. I only have one good thumb this week. Okay, so this goes a good ways and has holes inside it to provide extra support for the Marauder. So like obviously I'm still a huge believer in things like Calamasil and like actual LARP weapons coated in latex. They can look really, really cool, but the look of the, wow, does this go all the way? I'm not sure if this is new or old. Somebody else who has dissected a vintage Marauder needs to tell me, because this, if it's not new, like this is a market improvement and it's going very far along this. It's also pretty impressive that it just snapped like that, but it would definitely increase the longevity of your Marauder. And I guess it's of note that the tips of the Crossguard here do have not overtly sharp, but a pretty decent chunk of plastic in them if you were ever concerned about that. But that that's the state of damage there. We did have to shear that off through like lateral blows. And then of course, bending it renders pretty permanent damage. But I was going to do a bunch of stuff to see like if we could drag it behind a car. I don't even know what that would simulate. I thought about freezing it and seeing if it would freeze and defrost, but I feel like that's much better for blasters than Marauders. But if you enjoyed this, interestingly enough, this is a different piece, and then the blade is its own kind of special foam. I think that the Crossguard is significantly softer than the blade, which is why you get this sort of effect. But you can see as I'm dissecting this, the overall sort of construction here, and then the blade, the blade is its own piece, as is the hilt, and then the whole thing is kind of held together. We might be able to twist off the pommel to show you, but it is held together with a similar core to that in here, and that's why this bend is so decimating to it, is because once that plastic is bent, it's never quite the same. But that is our stress test of the Marauder. In the future, if there are other tests that you could think of, like I don't know how relevant a drop test would have been for a foam weapon, but like for a blaster, we will certainly do some sort of drop test. But like if this is something that you're interested in seeing new or potentially expensive products put through, let me know, like what would you like to see stress tested next? Drop me a comment in the comment section below. I'll stress test anything if you guys get this video to like 4,000 or 5,000 likes. Like I think that these are kind of interesting to make and a very unique way to take something apart in a meaningful and pseudo-scientific fashion. But the Marauder is one of my favorite in-force weapons of all time. I mean, it's the best one. It's the only thing that competes with LARP weapons, and in some ways it's more durable. Like I can tell you right now that latex would not have held up, and the fact that the blade is still in perfect functional shape is very, very relevant to our hobby and our interests. So let me know, comment section below, what would you like to see me stress test next, and then what are some other torture tests that you can think of that would be good for either blasters or form weapons. As always, much love, Nerf on, Drac out. Good evening, Amazon Exchange Department. Can you provide parameters for your definition of lightly used? Yeah, I'll hold.